Good afternoon, children. Today we are going to learn the lesson Keeping Quiet. And the poem Keeping Quiet is written by Pablo Neruda. The main theme of the poem is introspection and retrospection. So, children, two terms you have to learn in connection with this chapter is introspection and retrospection. Now, what do you mean by introspection? Introspection means self-examination, and retrospection means the deliberate recall of past events. Now let's find out what is told about introspection and retrospection in this poem. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. Now the poem begins by the poet asking us to count to 12 and we will all keep still. See here, the number 12 may denote the hours of a day or the months of an year. He is asking us to count to 12 and to be still. Actually, the poet wants us to have a togetherness and be still. As you know, today's world is so busy, so hectic. So the poet is asking us to be quiet and have peace for some minutes. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. Now, here in this stanza, the poet says that on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Here, he refers to language as something that creates barriers between people. He wants us to have the language of silence. For 1 second, he wants all of us to stop and have the language of silence. And he also urges us not to move our arms so much. That means not to work and take rest. It would be an exotic moment. Without rush, without engines, we would all be together in a sudden strangeness. And now the poet says that such a moment will be very rare and unusual. What kind of a moment, children? Without rush, without engines, and we all will be together, and it will create a strange atmosphere. And it is something that never happened earlier. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Now he says that the fisherman in the cold sea will not harm whales in that moment of stillness. And the man who is gathering salt will get the time to look at his hands, which he has hurt. Here the poet refers to the injuries and damage caused to our body. And in that moment, no human being will harm any other living being for food or for earning a livelihood. The poet further says that those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. Now he is asking us to think about the wars. He wants us to introspect about the consequences of our actions, of the wars. He refers to a lot of kind of wars. Green wars. What do you mean by green wars? It is a war which refers to people who exploit the green wealth of nature. And wars with harmful gases. Wars with fire. It refers to the bomb explosions. He calls them victory with no survivors, because at the end of the war, a lot of human lives will be killed. They will put on clean clothes. What do you mean by clean clothes? They will have new approach and they will walk about with their brothers. Here the poet tries to promote brotherhood. In the shade doing nothing. In the shade of love and harmony. They will with brotherhood. They will be at peace with each other in that moment of stillness. What I want should not be confused. with total inactivity. The poet further says that what he is talking about is not total inactivity. He is not asking us to just stop working and to sit lazy and all. He is just asking us to analyze the result of our deeds. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Now, the poet says that he don't want us to stop works and sit lazy. According to him, life is what it is about. He is associating the life. I want no truck with death. He is not going to mess with death. If we were not so single minded, what is the poet mean here by single minded? All should work with oneness, with the aim of completing their task. A togetherness, that is what he means by single minded. About keeping our lives moving. Our life should move on. That's the purpose of our life. And for once could do nothing. Perhaps a huge silence. If there is a moment left by doing nothing, I would appreciate that huge silence because we are taking that moment, that huge silence, that pause to appreciate their task achievements might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. The poet says that if we are not taking this huge silence, if we are not taking this one moment to introspect, then our sadness of never understanding ourselves. The poet says that we are not able to understand ourselves because we are not introspecting ourselves. Life will be so happier if we take a pause and appreciate ourselves, and we will never threaten ourselves with death. Death is not the end. There is a purpose of life, and we should appreciate it. Death is not the ultimate end. Perhaps the earth can teach us when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now, the poet says that the earth can teach us a lot of things. For example, in winter, what happens? The earth will freeze and it denotes a lifeless state. And next, who will come? Summer will come and the season changes back to life. Okay, so it's a very cyclic process. The poet is asking us to learn from nature. The earth is teaching us through the change of seasons, the cycle of seasons. And again he says, now I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. Here again the poet is saying that you should take a pause, introspect your lives and give it a new meaning. And that will be definitely the rebirth of your soul. Okay, children? So it's a very nice, meaningful poem by Pablo Neruda. Thank you. Okay, children, now let's recall what we have learned. In the poem Keeping Quiet, Pablo Neruda talks about the need for introspection and to create a feeling of mutual understanding, love and respect in the human world. He speaks about life where human beings are engrossed in their selfish motives and are living a life full of strife and destruction. Keeping Quiet is a simple poem about the need for a little bit of soul searching, which may help us to make peace with ourselves and others. It tells us how a moment of silent introspection will make us realize the utter futility of our aggressive endeavors. The poet asks everyone in the world to keep still for 12 seconds to create a togetherness. He wants all the people on the earth not to talk in any language, but to maintain a silence to communicate with each other's heart. He believes that this sudden moment of silence will be an exotic moment. There will be no noise and no movement. The fishermen in the sea will stop killing the whales, and the men who gather salt will stop their work and look at their hands. Hurt hands. This kind of break will enable both nature and man to embalm their wounds. Due to this break, human beings will start looking and caring for themselves rather than their work. Moreover, those who are fighting with each other will stop and walk about their fellow brethren. Pablo Neruda clarifies that he does not want to advocate total inactivity or death. He is concerned that we all are running blindly in a rat race, and in this process, we have completely missed our true goal to keep a balance between man and nature. This is a dangerous situation and can bring catastrophic results. So, our survival in this world depends upon our ability to understand and rectify this. This can be done only when we introspect and develop a feeling of understanding with each other. So, children, I hope the poem is clear for you. Thank you.